Good morning, y'all. It's Debra Cox and it's Talk Thursday. It's a little bit of a cool morning. We went from temperatures earlier in the week of 80 degrees down to 30s, and there was a little frost on the ground. You can see here. So I'm coming to you today because I was asked, talking about different types of issues as it relates to mental health and things you can do to help get through those days. Had someone ask me about traumatic experiences as a kid and mental health and adulthood. And I said, yeah, I can, because it was 50 years ago this week that I lived a traumatic experience as a teenager. On March 16th, 1976, I was 15 years old, the oldest of 5 siblings, and my parents were the average parents. My mom worked as a ward clerk at a local hospital, and my dad was a retired veteran. He served several tours in Vietnam. And one thing I want to tell you, veterans, if they've served during wartime, a lot of them have gone through some stuff with PTSD and other issues. And, just like the farming community, we've got to keep check on folks because you never know what's on their mind. So that's the reason you always need to have a conversation. You need to always reach out to people that God puts on your heart, because it's meant for a reason. Well, getting back to my traumatic experience, March 16th, 1976 was any normal day. It was a Tuesday. Of course, went to school. My youngest sibling was at my grandmother's because there was 13 years difference in the oldest and the youngest. And so came home from school on the bus to my dad passed out, what I thought was passed out, at the kitchen table. My dad had become an alcoholic due to many issues from serving in Vietnam War. And I tried to wake him up to go sleep it off before our mother got home, but he didn't move. He didn't budge. So I gently lifted his head and shoulders back, and he was blue. I gently laid him back down, called my grandmother. My grandparents lived right next door, and they were foster parents. And one of the foster kids, her boyfriend, who was a couple of years older, was there. And they came rushing over, and he did CPR, and it was to no avail. My dad didn't make it through. And the thing I want to share with you is alcoholism is a slow suicide. But my dad also suffered a heart attack, and there wouldn't have been anything that they could have done in the hospital. It was that extreme. So growing up as the oldest of 5, 15 years old, the next day, I didn't stay around home for the funeral to be planned or any of that. I knew I had to get back in school that next day. And I had some teachers that were concerned. Of course, you got a parent that dies the day before and you're back at school. But then my friends from band, I was in high school band and played flute in a marching and concert band, and also did 4-H, and my 4-H friends rallied around me. I will tell you, if it wasn't for the love and concern of those family and friends, I don't know where I would be today. That was a horrific, traumatic experience. Losing my dad at 15. Me being the oldest and the youngest sibling being 2. And, it's difficult. That's why I take mental health seriously. Never really imagined anything back 50 years ago, because mental health wasn't talked about. Suicide wasn't talked about. And that's major issues that need to be talked about today. Because if it hadn't have been for the love and support of my family and friends, I wouldn't have gotten through life in general. You know, sometimes we're able to get through, yeah, and I break down and cry because I think about my dad and what he went through. But the matter at hand is this: if you're struggling with issues with alcoholism, with drugs, any other issues as it relates to mental health, please reach out and get help, because you matter. You deserve to be here. There's a rhyme and reason you should be here. And those of us that have to go through the difficult times of losing a loved one that way, it's hard. I will admit it's hard and difficult some days, but talking about it helps. So if you're struggling from some traumatic experience, whether it was some type of verbal or domestic abuse, or even sexual abuse, please reach out to somebody today. Don't keep it bottled up inside, because life is too short. And if we don't take the bull by the horns and get the needed help, then you're always going to be struggling. You're always going to be wondering, what if? And that can be your downfall, unfortunately. And so it's with this that I want you to reach out to somebody, a therapist, somebody to talk to, your preacher, because most everybody's gone through something traumatic, whether as a kid, a teenager, or an adult. And if you don't talk about it, get it out, it's going to eat you alive, plain and simple. That's the facts of life. And so please take the time to do what's best for you and reach out to somebody and get the needed help that you need. And, you might even be able to help somebody going through the same thing you've gone through, whether as a young person, a teenager, or even an adult. Your life matters. Everybody matters. So do take the time to overcome those struggles, those traumatic experiences, because life can be grand if you work through those issues and problems, whatever the case may be that you've gone through. Yeah, I miss my dad. I miss him horrifically because, he didn't get to meet my husband or my children or my grandchildren. And that hurt a lot. But the fact of the matter is, by me sharing out what I went through, hopefully will help somebody in the near future, because life is precious. It's so much that you've got to see about yourself. You've got to reach out. Somebody may know what you're going through and reach out to you, but not everybody does. Just know that. So take time for you, talk to somebody. And above all, if you're unsure about talking to somebody locally, call, text, or chat with 988. They can help you. They have folks that can help you and get you on the right path. Your life matters. You're important. And it's hard to overcome. I will admit that. Traumatic experience is hard to overcome, but you can do it. You can be successful. You can succeed. Like I said, reach out to somebody, or even call or text 988. Your life matters. So take care of yourself. And I hope on this bright, cool morning that you take a walk and listen to the sights and sounds of what's going on around you. You never know what you'll miss. So I'm going to leave you with a few sights and sounds of pond life.